Episode 4, The Battle of Britain, 1940. The summer of 1940, Europe had fallen silent, under occupation, under fear. France was gone, Poland, Norway, Denmark, Belgium, and the Netherlands, all had been swept away in months. Now, across the narrow waters of the English Channel, stood the last holdout, Britain. For Hitler, the path to total victory seemed clear. The German war machine had triumphed everywhere it went, on land, at sea, and in the air. He now planned his next conquest. The invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion. But before his armies could land, there was one final obstacle, the Royal Air Force. To cross the Channel, Germany had to control the sky. Thus began something the world had never witnessed before, a campaign fought entirely in the air, where the fate of nations would be decided by men in single-seat fighters, racing through clouds at 400 miles per hour. July 10, 1940, the first raids came. German bombers targeted British convoys and radar stations along the southern coast. To the British radar operators, their screens suddenly filled with clusters of light, the signature of hundreds of approaching aircraft. Sirens blared. Across England, the orders echoed through radio channels: scramble! Scramble! From grass airfields and hidden bases, Spitfires and Hurricanes roared into the sky. Engines screamed as young pilots, many barely 20 years old, pulled their planes into steep climbs toward the incoming bombers. The Luftwaffe outnumbered the RAF almost 3-1, nearly 2,500 German aircraft against just over 600 British fighters at the start. Most believed the RAF would be destroyed within weeks, but Britain had a secret weapon: radar. The newly developed chain-home radar network could detect incoming aircraft long before they reached the coast. It gave Britain time to prepare, to intercept, to survive. In operations rooms beneath Bentley Priory and Uxbridge, young women plotted the positions of enemy formations with wooden markers, while controllers directed squadrons into combat using telephones and radio. It was the first modern command and control system in history. Above them, the war unfolded among the clouds. The first true battle for the skies had begun. By August, the German High Command believed the RAF was weakening. They launched Adlerangriff, Operation Eagle Attack, the all-out assault meant to destroy Britain's air defenses once and for all. August 13, 1940, Eagle Day. At dawn, waves of bombers crossed the Channel: Heinkel He 111s, Dornier Du 17s, Junkers Ju 88s, escorted by sleek Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters. Their targets: airfields, aircraft factories, and radar stations. Over the countryside of southern England, the sky filled with vapor trails and gunfire. Engines roared, machine guns rattled, and planes tumbled from the clouds in flames. That day, both sides suffered terrible losses. The Luftwaffe lost 47 aircraft, the RAF, 13 fighters. But for every British pilot shot down, another took off to fight again. The fighting intensified through mid-August. On August 18, later known as the hardest day, the Luftwaffe sent more than 1,000 sorties against RAF airfields. At Biggin Hill, Kenley, and Tangmere, hangars exploded, fuel tanks burned, and the runways were cratered with bombs. Fighters scrambled even as explosions tore through their bases. By nightfall, both sides were exhausted. Germany lost over 70 aircraft in one day. The RAF lost 34, and more precious still, the lives of skilled pilots they could not easily replace. The average life expectancy of a British fighter pilot during those weeks was less than 4 weeks. Many never lived to see the end of summer. They were so young. Some still wrote letters to their mothers between sorties. But Britain would not yield. New pilots, from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Canada, New Zealand, and South Africa, joined the fight. These international squadrons, like the Polish 303 Squadron, proved fierce and skilled, shooting down more enemy planes per pilot than any other RAF unit. Meanwhile, the German command shifted targets again and again, from airfields, to radar sites, to aircraft factories, but the RAF refused to break, even as London itself came under attack. Fighter squadrons continued to rise, again and again, into smoke-filled skies. By early September, the Luftwaffe had lost over 1,800 aircraft, the RAF had lost 1,000. The human toll was staggering. Entire squadrons were wiped out, bodies and wreckage fell into the Channel or burned in fields. But morale in Britain held firm. At night, when the sirens wailed and the city blacked out, Londoners would watch the tracer fire flicker across the dark horizon, listening for the deep hum of engines overhead. Every morning, they woke to the smell of smoke, but also to the news that their pilots were still fighting, and still winning. Then, on September 7, Hitler changed strategy. Frustrated by the RAF's resistance, he ordered the Luftwaffe to bomb London directly. The Blitz had begun. That night, nearly 400 German bombers and 600 fighters filled the sky over London. Warehouses along the docks erupted in flames, houses collapsed, the city burned for days, over 400 civilians were killed in the first raid alone. The shift in strategy was meant to break British morale. Instead, it gave the RAF a brief chance to recover, to repair airfields and regroup, and that single mistake would change everything. September 15, 1940, the day that would decide the fate of Britain. Early that morning, radar stations detected massive enemy formations heading across the Channel, over 1,000 aircraft. It was Hitler's final gamble, one decisive blow to crush the RAF once and for all. Every available British squadron was launched. From Scotland to the southern coast, fighters roared into the sky. What followed was chaos. One of the largest aerial battles in history. The sky above London and the Channel turned white with vapor trails, engines screamed, bombs fell, and parachutes bloomed across the horizon like scattered flowers of silk. By sunset, the Luftwaffe had lost 56 aircraft. Double the RAF's losses that day, and for the first time, Hitler's commanders began to doubt. The invasion of Britain, Operation Sea Lion, was postponed, and soon after, abandoned. It was the first major defeat of Nazi Germany. By the end of October, the Luftwaffe had lost more than 1,900 aircraft, and over 2,500 airmen, killed, captured, or missing. The RAF had lost 1,500 aircraft, and over 500 pilots, men who would be remembered forever as the few. Despite its heavy toll, Britain still stood, the skies were free, and Hitler had been stopped. In the months that followed, the Blitz continued, night after night, as bombs rained down on London, Coventry, Liverpool, and other cities. Tens of thousands of civilians died, but the spirit of defiance never broke. Britain remained the last bastion of freedom in Europe, the one place Hitler could not conquer. Its survival would become the foundation, on which the Allies would build their future counterattack. Epilogue. The light above the darkness, 25:00, 28:00, when the last bombers turned back across the Channel, Britain still stood. Its cities were scarred, its people weary, its young pilots gone, but the island lived. The world had witnessed something new. A battle fought not for land or empire, but for the very idea of freedom. Outnumbered and exhausted, a handful of pilots had changed the course of history. They had proven that courage, technology, and unity could defy tyranny itself. From that summer on, Hitler would never again hold undisputed power in the air, and the legend of the few, those who defended Britain when all seemed lost, would live forever. As Winston Churchill declared, never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. In that long, burning summer of 1940, the skies became the front line, and Britain stood alone, but it did not fall, from the ashes and the smoke. Hope still rose, high above the clouds.